Okay, I think we're pretty good at least to get started here. Yeah, I was thinking we'd start off with some intros anyway. Um, yeah, Corey, I don't know, you want to kick us off on that one?
Sure. Corey Kaplan. I'm one of the two co-founders of Dolomite. Um, we first got started in crypto pretty early on in 2015 for myself and 2013 for Adam, but he can go into more of his background. Um, Dolomite started back in 2017, 2018, actually as a different protocol then, but still with the same name. Um, and our launch in October 2022 really just took the learnings that we had accumulated from our previous experience in DeFi and being DeFi users ourselves to wanting to work with other protocols and perform more integrations with other diverse sets of assets so that we can maximize composability for the DeFi ecosystem. So we're pretty excited by this AMA today and the upcoming integration we're working on with Abra. We're big time fans and users of the protocol ourselves, so it's going to be really exciting to be able to do this together with them. Adam, do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Adam. I'm also co-founder of Dolomite. Yeah, I got into crypto originally, 2013. Bitcoin spiked to $1,000 for the first time, and programming forum I was on started discussing it, and it was very, very early days, but it was a good way to get into the space. 2017, Corey and I really started building in the space, and yeah, it's been a great journey since then to see it all grow. Bobo, why don't you go?
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Bobo. I handle the growth and development or business development for Dolomite. Got started in crypto in late 2015, early 2016. Um, I've pretty much been here 24/7. Glad to be a part of the team to help scale everything.
And then we have our guest from Abra here, Rami. What's the proper
Whatever you
pronunciation of
want to
that?
call it is fine. Romy, Rami, whatever you want. I don't mind. My name is Romy. I'm one of the core contributors for the Abracadabra DAO. I've been in the space since, I guess, a while now. Early 2021. I was working on another project before with some of the team members that are still working on Abra, and then when Abra was funded, I was one of the first people to join the team and kind of help out in different ways. I started doing community management, and then in the past like 8-10 months, I've been moved more to a BD and growth side. And yeah, I'm just pushing quite a lot of proposals on the DAO, and I'm helping out as a core contributor to the whole thing. I'm super happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great having you here. So yeah, I was thinking we could give just a brief background on what Dolomite is and give you an opportunity to talk about Abra as well. Yeah, Corey, did you want to give that intro on Dolo?
Sure. So Dolomite, we consider a next generation money market protocol. And the things that make it next generation to us are our broad token support and capital efficiency. Uh, the broad token support can be demonstrated by a variety of assets that we're working on listing and adding to the platform. We already saw this earlier with our introduction of GLP and full support along with it, which goes hand in hand with with the capital efficiency because users are able to deposit GLP into the platform and have full control and autonomy over those rewards. But for some people that want to work with other tokens that take the load off when it comes to like how rewards are compounded or do it more efficiently and consistently, that's where our initial step is with listing and working with Abra to work with Magic GLP. So we can dive more into Magic GLP, what it is, and how we're looking to work with it pretty soon. But just wanted to keep the discussion about Dolomite more high level for the moment. Adam, do you want to fill in any cracks in what I've left there?
I think you got a pretty good high level for now. I'd say, Rami, you want to take it and tell a little bit about
Yeah,
Abra?
sure, of course. So Abra is a lending platform basically. Users are able to come to use our smart contract to provide collateral and borrow the stablecoin NIM, which is our stablecoin. We also offer leveraging build products, which basically allow people to go leverage long on their interest-bearing tokens, basically leverage farming on the whole portfolio. We have quite a lot of collateral. We are currently live on 6 chains, and recently we have been working quite a lot on Magic GLP. Magic GLP is currently the largest TVL auto-compounder for GLP tokens. Users are able to stake their GLP tokens for Magic GLP, and Magic GLP basically, as rewards are harvested and auto-compounded back into position, basically grows in value over time. And the reason why we've been able to make it so efficient and so used by the GMX community is because it's Magic GLP is one of the lowest fee auto-compounder on the market. We only take a 1% protocol fee on the rewards harvested, and there's no deposit or withdrawal fee. And after that, we've been able to list it as a collateral on Abracadabra, where you can use your Magic GLP tokens to mint MIM or to leverage up on your Magic GLP yield, basically. I don't know if you guys want me to go in more detail in any part. Just stop me at any time and ask me if I'm not explaining something well.
Yeah, what I was actually going to say is, would you like to go more into depth about MIM? I'm sure
Yeah, sure.
at least some of the Dolomite community would love to learn some
Yeah,
more.
for sure. So MIM is a decentralized USD denominated over collateralized stablecoin. If you guys are familiar with the model, if you guys are not familiar with the model, it's pretty simple. You provide collateral, let's say Bitcoin, and you can borrow at a particular LTV the stablecoin MIM. Whenever you the loans have no maturity, and you can repay whenever you want, just bringing back the MIM you borrowed, borrow fee, and an interest. And it's pretty cool design. It's been battle tested over multiple times. During last November, we've been 2 Novembers ago now, we have been able to top more than $4.5 billion in emitted MIM, and it's been proven since its resilience and has been able to survive multiple, let's say, tricky situations, I would call them, without any issues. And what we've seen in the past couple of months is that it's been able to perform pretty well even during the USDC DPEG crisis.
Yeah, that was certainly an
That's great to
exciting
hear.
situation to see MIM prove itself as such a resilient protocol.
It's great. I mean, I think it's very important that we now have some decentralized alternatives compared to the centralized stablecoin. I think centralized stablecoins are fundamental for the industry, but the decentralized part is also very, very important. During the USDC DPEG, MIM price has been brought down because our main market is paired against USDC. So as the price was going down of USDC, MIM was inherently going down as well, but it gave quite a lot of good opportunities for people to buy in at low amounts. Like I remember the treasury had a leverage position on USDT open, and we closed it during the DPEG, and we managed to make a whole bunch of money buying cheap MIM off the market and then just waiting it to go back to PEG. It's great. It's been really great to see how the community has used MIM during those times of crisis. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that seeing the flexibility, the governance, and also like the different ways that you're willing to work with the market and potentially take on risk is very interesting, because money market protocols themselves are no strangers to risk. But if you had to describe from your own perspective, because I'm keen to also have my own answers, but what would you say is the difference between a protocol like Dolomite, which at its core is still a borrow-lend protocol, but more of a money market system, compared to MIM, which offers similar features like at surface level?
That's a good question. I guess the main thing is that on Abracadabra is the lender in our system. Basically, we are the one providing, the DAO is the one providing the MIM for people to be borrowed, which has quite a lot of differences, I would say. The interest rates are not as dynamic as they are on Dolomite. The collaterals that we have to pick are slightly different, I would say, because we are an isolated lending market platform, and we have to be careful to which collateral we list, obviously, because as you back MIM with some collateral, you're effectively using that collateral to you base your whole system on the reliance of that collateral. If one of those collateral go to zero and you're not able to liquidate fast enough, you have quite a lot of issues, I would say. But so far, the DAO has been able to manage the whole risk level of Abra pretty well, and I think it's the fact that we're still around when so many others have failed. It's a testament to that. In terms of other differences, I don't know. I mean, we have a pretty similar setup, to be honest. We both have virtual balances, and we have DGenBox. You guys have your Dolomite system, and I think it's just very interesting to implement some of our tokens like Magic, GLP, and MIM in your whole system, and just let the free market decide what's the lending ratio, what's the borrowing rate, and the interest, and all this kind of stuff. I think it's very interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like from my own perspective, I look at MIM as more of like a central bank, which is more of the primary market for the creation, issuance, and managing a risk for MIM, whereas Dolomite acts as more of a secondary one, where you could have more of a meshing occur between MIM and other potential stablecoins, and more free transference of the assets once they're actually already minted for people to do things with them. So more flexibility potentially. So if there's potential caps in place for how much you can leverage up, for example, to increase your exposure to Magic GLP by running like a leverage position, you might be able to get access to that on the Dolomite if you're capped out on Abra for it, or if interest rates fluctuate, for example, and there's other opportunities that open up elsewhere. So there's ways to potentially either hedge your position or to arbitrage rates just by working with a primary issuer like MIM versus working with a secondary one like Dolomite. And I'd
Yeah,
say like
for sure.
as a protocol as well, like even though there are potentially certain areas we could say that we are quote unquote competing with each other on, we look at Dolomite as more of an open protocol, and we're not necessarily shy towards working with other protocols because there is some competitive overlap. As a matter of fact, we really welcome and with open arms working with a protocol like Abra because we think that overall there's more synergies or ways that we can interestingly work with each other compared to just setting up like a walled garden because we don't want any overlap.
Completely. Like it doesn't make any sense at all to try to compartmentalize. My English is going crazy. To compartmentalize the two things, right? Because we're using ERC20 tokens that are freely integratable by anyone, and it just makes sense to work together and see if there's something cool. I really like what you said, for example, about when we are sold out, you guys can step in and people can use your infrastructure to borrow using the same collateral. Unfortunately, we are Abra. We can scale our markets pretty well, but they will reach some kind of hard ceiling. We cannot back 85% of MIM. Well, maybe, yeah, we can do it with Magic GLP, but there's going to come a moment where liquidity will come into play, where um, stability risks will come into play, and we have limits as well. So the fact that there are people like you that are building on top of us and using our tokens and simply offering users more options, it's good, right? It's what you want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also different considerations as well with like how hedged or not hedged your trade is, depending on like what the backing of the asset is that you're working with. So, looking underneath the hood of GLP, it's predominantly backed by USDC at the moment. So if there is another DPEG event, there could be some interesting plays that could happen with
Mhm.
USDC or other stablecoins that back it, depending on what debt you're taking out against it when you're actually taking out the loan itself. So there's different ways to look at and manage risk depending on how you want to approach that sort of scenario.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, if I have to mention one thing that I don't particularly like about GLP is the fact that so much of the stablecoin exposure is mostly on one centralized stablecoin issuer. I think it would make much more sense to diversify it a little bit. The fact that Frax is there and that USD and that DAI are there are also really good. But of course, being DAI extremely well, it's backed by a lot of USDC, right? So you always have the same systemic risk. It would be great to bring in some more USDT tokens or some other forms of collateral, like I don't know, MIM itself, of course, or MAI or whatever other decentralized stablecoin that could make the whole system more resilient.
Yeah, and I think that there's overall like a shift in the market after the USDC DPEG, where I think consumers are demanding more resiliency in the underlying financial primitives that actually line these systems, and it's an important thing for us as developers or protocol developers to not shy away from it and really just think about the hardiness of the protocol and where things can be improved.
Totally agree. I mean, as speaking about Abra, when the whole USDC did the peg happened, we didn't have much USDC exposure. Thankfully, we've managed to liquidate all the position very, very swiftly. Even though it was a crazy period because it was like 4 a.m. where I was back then, and all of our moderators were like calling me like, "Yo, wake up! USDC is at like 84 cents." I was like, "No, wait, what's happening? Wait, small. What the fuck are you talking about?" So it wasn't so easy to do, but the system was resilient, and I hope that in the future we will be able to see more diversification towards stablecoin in DeFi in general, because if there's one thing that we know is that having a single point of failure is not a great idea, because if things can go wrong, they will usually go wrong, and that's not great, I think.
Yeah, I had this idea after the USDC DPEG event happened where I was actually thinking someone would build it pretty quickly, but so far I haven't seen it yet, where someone might build like an index on different stablecoins that doesn't necessarily try to rebalance when prices fluctuate because usually what ends up happening is like you're either eating major trading fees when there is a DPEG event, or you're left holding the token itself that's less valuable, similar to
Yeah.
like an LP position. So I was curious to see if we would see some more development action where someone might build like basically like an index or like a basket of assets that just very very simply wraps around a bunch of different stable coins, but haven't really seen that happen yet. I think one of the Trojan horses we might see like in the DeFi industry could be a protocol that uses that for underwriting risk for the protocol, similar to like how you have GLP underwrites all the trading that happens on GMX. If someone builds like an index of assets, but it's really just stable coins for underwriting activity on the market itself, that could become a very popular secondhand asset just because people might want to be able to hold a token that's analogous to holding many stable coins. So they're not necessarily left with so much concentrated risk from holding too much USDT versus USDC versus MIM, for example.
I think it's very interesting for sure. I think the diversification topic on stablecoins is something that we will work on a lot in the future as an industry. I think people tend to see centralized stablecoin as bad when they are not actually bad. They are simply the bedrock on which everything is built. And then you have other forms of decentralization, which one example can be MIM, or the extreme decentralization example can be liquidity, where all these different kind of ways of storing stable value can work together. And I think your idea of having an index is for sure interesting.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I guess, like of course, like your concentration in MIM, where do you think would be a good place for MIM to, I guess, cement itself beyond like the primary issuer perspective of the market? So if you look at DAI, for example, it permeated pretty deeply into Aave and other money market protocols as being like widely accepted use of collateral. Um, are there any things you're looking at with MIM, like now or in the future with its penetration in DeFi or different usages that might be different from that? Or are you just looking to do something, I guess, similar in effect to what DAI's accomplished so far?
That's a good question. I think one of the most difficult thing to do when you're actually trying to improve a stablecoin is to give people reasons to hold the stablecoin itself. There's different way of doing it. UST used to give an APY on that, and that worked. Just we see how that worked. DAI is showing resilience because of the PSM. I think that's the main reason why people are comfortable holding DAI, because they know that they will always be able to swap their DAI for USDC. And liquidity works because people trust the complete decentralization of it and the fact that the contracts are immutable and it's only backed by ETH. So there's different ways of seeing it basically. I think it's important, and what we do at Abracadabra is we are always happy to work with any kind of protocols like Aave, like Banqui on Avalanche I can think of, Vendor on Arbitrum. Any protocol that is integrating MIM is something that we are super interested with, and we are always happy to support, because at the end of the day, as long as you understand what the risks involved with holding MIM are and you're comfortable with that, MIM is one of the best things you can use as a stablecoin right now. It's an over collateralized stablecoin, which means that there's more than $1 worth of collateral backing one MIM. And that's simply how it works. And so far it's been working great. And I think we should be looking into ways of what terms did you use to having it?
Essentially, like penetrate the DeFi
Penetrate,
ecosystem
yeah, that's
further.
correct. Penetrate the DeFi ecosystem. I think it's a great term actually. So yeah, we're always looking for ways of doing it. Right now, we're focusing a lot on seeing MIM as a leverage engine, which is very good, because a leverage engine basically doesn't have to always be $1, right? A leverage engine is something that if it goes 50 bips below peg, it still works as fine. It's just more expensive to open new position, and it's cheaper to close old ones. And I think I think it's very important to try to figure out, if you are working on a stable coin, where exactly you fit in the whole system. Personally, right now we're looking at MIM more as I said, as a leverage engine, as a tool that people can use to leverage up on their yield, more than a way to store value. But it's been performing great, and also as that. Like right now, MIM is trading at, what is it? I think 7, 8 bips below USDT peg, and we've been able it wasn't easy because it took us like nearly 6 and 8 months, but we've been able to make it to grow our curve pool better and to just make it more resilient and the price to stabilize a little bit. And we have plenty of more stuff to do. We have a lot of proposals on our forum to try to take a more active approach towards price stabilization as well.
Yeah, I think
Well, I think that
go ahead, Adam.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say, I think talking about the integration and how MIM will be used, it was actually one of the questions I wanted to bring up was, Corey, how do you foresee MIM and Magic GLP being used on Dolomite in place of things like USDC or GLP? And for the sake of the Abra community, a lot of the strategies that are being performed right now with something like GLP are either hedging GLP by shorting the component assets of it, so price fluctuations are essentially canceled out, or leveraging up on GLP to maximize the amount of yield from it.
Yeah, so I think when looking at the Abra ecosystem, what they've built so far, MIM of course is gonna be very different in its usage compared to Magic GLP. I think Magic GLP's integration into Dolomite will be useful if you're currently just holding Magic GLP and not leveraging it. You have another venue where you can borrow against it in order to unlock equity in it while still retaining the rewards, and there's no necessarily concerns there with that. You also just have the ability to arbitrage different interest rates you might be charging that that Abra is currently charging for MIM. Or on the flip side of that, like we mentioned before, there's always the potential for it to be capped out, and there's no room left for borrowing MIM against it in order to leverage up. And having Dolomite available as another venue gives you one more option where maybe instead of borrowing MIM, now you're borrowing USDC against it. But where it gets more interesting is as we look to expand our reach into the Abra ecosystem and we work with MIM, for example, as another collateral asset, you could essentially run that same trade where if there is enough MIM in Dolomite, you'd be able to borrow it in order to leverage up your GLP exposure, or your Magic GLP exposure. That would be a possibility. And then looking beyond that, what's been previously neglected on our site so far has been the trade panel, where users are able to open up margin trades using spot liquidity. As we look to expand our liquidity sources, I think it would be really interesting for users to have the option to not just trade USDC in order to leverage up their ETH exposure, or on the flip side of that, if they want to short ETH, they'll typically sell the ETH and then hold USDC in the position. We could offer MIM as another collateral asset where people can run that same trade, replacing USDC with MIM. So, if there is another DPEG event, or if users really do have a trust issue with USDC, there's more than one option there as a stable coin for them to work with.
That's one of the ones I'm most excited for. I think having a diversity of options for stablecoins is really important.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I like having more than just one.
Totally agree. I mean, I think that's the way to go, and especially if you guys are managing a protocol like Dolomite, it just makes sense to have different options and allow users to change to choose them, right? To choose between those options. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One question I actually wanted to ask to you, Rami, was we've touched on how it was a lot more stable during the USDC DPEG event. I wondered if you wanted to talk to the what you really credit the stability and security of the asset to, and what's the approach of Abra to this?
To choose collateral that backs MIM, you mean?
Yeah, what is the strength of MIM compared to, for example, a centralized one like USDC?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the good thing about MIM is that it's backed by collateral that can be liquidated, and that it's easily auditable. Jesus, my English is going crazy. That is easily auditable on chain. Right now you can easily say how many collaterals are backing each MIM that has been borrowed. While with centralized providers like USDC and USDT, sometimes it's not as easy to fully trust the auditors or trust the centralized party. Another good thing about MIM is that it completely cuts out any banking intermediary, and you simply have everything on chain. There are, of course, risks coming with it. The main challenge that we're facing and that we have faced in the past are liquidations. When one of the collateral goes down very fast, and there's a lot of that collateral backing MIM, and there's not enough liquidity on chain, it can become tricky to fully liquidate positions. Which is one of the main things that we look at when the DAO decides which collateral are added to the protocol. If something doesn't have deep enough collateral, it can become very, very dangerous, because sorry, something doesn't have deep enough liquidity, it can become very, very dangerous because, as you can imagine, if let's say that we are listing an asset and it just goes down 50% in a matter of hours and the liquidity dries up, you can be left with quite a lot of bad debt. So that's one of the main things that we look at when listing proposal for spell holders to vote upon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important. Are you able to share at all what you look for in these assets? Is it purely just a number in terms of liquidity, or is there anything else?
So the liquidity matters as a function of the MIM that we're allowed to borrow. So first of all, we always prefer to have on-chain liquidity because on-chain liquidity allows for third-party liquidators to just run flash loans to liquidate positions, but we can also list tokens that have off-chain liquidity. It's pretty easy to liquidate a position off-chain. You just buy a MIM of the market, you liquidate the position, you get back the collateral, and then you go on any centralized exchange and you sell it. Of course, it's less safe than having it on chain because having it on chain is always better, but that's one of the options you can have. And in terms of actual parameters, it all depends on the liquidity, right? We can list a token that has 10 million of liquidity on chain, and we can add something around, I don't know, one. Of course, it's always up to the DAO because the DAO votes for it. But the way I think about it is that if a token has like 10 million worth of liquidity, we can safely add 500K, 1 million min to be borrowed against it. If a token, on the other hand, has, I don't know, 300 million worth of liquidity, you can easily increase that amount of MIM able to be borrowed from low numbers to even higher numbers. The reason why we're so comfortable having such a large percentage of MIM being backed by GLP and TriCrypto tokens is because both GLP and TriCrypto are basically Bitcoin, ETH, and stablecoins. And it's very easy to liquidate these assets on chain.
Yeah, of course, they're essential to the space in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I've gotten through basically, I think, all the topics I wanted to cover, but I think one more important one is, what's next for Abra? What's coming up down the road?
That's a good one. Okay, so what we've been working on for the past quarter, I would say it's been all focused on one topic, and that's sustainability. In the past, we've seen a huge growth for Abra, but at the same time, that growth wasn't sustainable because the way to have such a large amount of liquidity was paying a lot of rewards to our peers. And unfortunately, this is something that cannot last forever. What we have been doing for the past 6 months and what we have been doing with cauldrons like Magic GLP, the new TriCrypto Cauldron, CRV, Magic Ape, which is another autocompounder for ape tokens, is that we're basically listing collateral that have APIs high enough to sustain high interest. And as we are able to migrate old positions from these old low interest markets to new and high interest markets, our cost of emitting MIM goes down. And as that goes down, we can grow again and focus more on growing the market cap entirely. In terms of actual things that are coming for Abra, we have been working quite a lot on expansions towards other chains. We are looking a lot into BNB chain, for example. We've been chatting with their team, and I think it's an ecosystem that is very interesting so far. As I said, we're always looking for new collateral with IAPYs that we can list on the protocol. We're also, let me think, what else? We're working on a whole revamp of our technical analytics page and basically allow everybody to audit the protocol in a much easier way. So, of course, this way the transparency increases, and with the transparency increase, there's a whole bunch of other stuff coming along, which is very nice. We're working on new ways of incentivizing our liquidity providers. We have recently got the MIM3CRV Curve LP tokens listed on Conic Finance, and we are always looking into new and more innovative AMM models to this MIM and see how efficient they are. And yeah, that's about it, right? We're also looking at a NFT lending, peer-to-peer NFT collateralized lending platform, which is called Potion, and we're currently stopping its development a little bit just because we want to focus on the core product a little bit more, but this will also come in the future. And it's basically going to be a platform where users can use their NFT to collateralize positions and borrow either MIM or ETH. And I think that's very interesting, not only because you can collateralize that position with a picture of a monkey, despite we all like picture of monkeys, but because you can really start working on the whole NFT-fi trend and all those protocols that are using NFT positions to I don't know, to represent positions, for example.
Wow, that is an awesome roadmap ahead. And yeah, I completely agree on the excitement there. And having a roadmap like that is so essential. It's like you mentioned, once the rewards start to dry up, those are real rocket fuel that can help launch a platform, but it's temporary, and you really need to start to look to the long term. And it sounds like you're definitely doing it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
I know Corey.
we're all here to
Yeah,
build for the long.
sorry, go ahead,
No,
please.
no. I just wanted to say that we're all here building for the long run, right? We want to build something that is sustainable and is beneficial both for spell holders and for meme peers, and that's just going to be very very cool to
Absolutely.
see happening.
Yeah, completely agreed. We have a very similar philosophy, and it's really about building, a good product, good service for the long run, something that could be around and sustainable. I know Corey had to step out for a second, but what's coming down the road with Dolomite is a couple things that have been mentioned. Obviously talking about Magic GLP and MIM integration. The biggest ones are going to be, I think, also ones that were touched on, but updates to our borrow page. We're adding a lot more trade functionality into there, so
Mm-hmm.
it'll be much easier to loop your positions, to be able to do the process of borrowing, trading, depositing as collateral, but all in one click. Same thing in doing the reverse. And then shortly following that will be updates to our trade page, do a lot more of that pair trading, and hopefully doing it with MIM, right?
For sure. Super interested to see where we're going with this, and I personally think that it's great that we are just. I really enjoyed working with you guys. I already told you about it privately. I think you guys are doing the correct way. You're focusing on your technology before anything else, and you are developing something which is really really cool.
Absolutely. That's really we're very tech first people, and we get a lot of the same from you as well. And that's, I think, what really makes for a strong project.
100% for sure.
So, yeah, was there anything otherwise that you wanted to cover? I was going to say, otherwise, we could also open it up. If anyone in the audience has a question, we are here for you to give any answers, any topic.
It's all good on my side. I think we covered integration pretty well. If there is anyone who wants to ask questions, feel free. I'm here. I don't bite. I'm Italian, but I'm friendly, I swear.
I was gonna say I don't think we've had in any of the AMAs. We've had someone from the audience come up to ask a question. So yeah,
Yeah,
you'll be
yeah, people
number
can be a bit
one.
shy.
Should I bribe people? Should I give them spare rewards just to come and ask dumb questions? I'm not sure. Not sure if that's gonna
We're
work.
gonna gamify this shit.
That's the way to make sure we're here for a few hours, right?
Exactly. Everything but working for me.
Cool. Well, I guess the only thing I wanted to cover left on our end was everyone who attended. You're eligible to receive some Dolomite XP tokens for this. We're working through Galaxy. We have you receive an oat, and we have this system of again, it's a lot like a video game. You complete these quests, whether it be attending an AMA or whatever else. You receive XP. Enough XP gets you levels, and levels will be recognized in our Discord. Get a specific role for it, maybe access to certain groups on there, and yeah, more in the future. But yeah, you can go check that out. We have that. It's right on the top of our Twitter page about this AMA. But yeah, was there anything you want to plug? Where should everyone find you? Find out more about Abracadabra.
Yeah, we have our Twitter profile, which is meme_spell. There's my Twitter profile. There's our Discord channel where most of the community is. And yeah, I mean, just if you're interested in any kind of implementation of both meme and Magic GLP into your product, or you're just looking into learning more on the ecosystem, just drop me a DM. My DMs are always open, and just don't ask me when is the token gonna pump, because I don't know. Everybody asks me, I don't know. I'm gonna have a sign on it. I don't know about that. But yeah, just hope on our moderators on Discord will always be happy to support you in any way. They're great.
I was gonna say, looks like we actually have one request for a question here. Crane Blade, if you want to go ahead, there we go.
There, hi.
Hey.
So I joined in late, and I'm not 100% sure if this is the same Abracadabra and MIM, that got famous 2021 or 2020, late
It is,
2021.
yeah.
It is, okay.
It is.
Because that didn't that have a lot of issues with the leadership, Danielle, Sifu, and all that? So like, has the leadership changed, or what's going on?
Yeah, I can tell you something about it. Sifu never was a member of the of Abracadabra team. He was one of the signers, and but his focus was mostly on Wonderland. Related to Danny, Danny did step down from Abracadabra leadership. I think it was November last year, something around that.
Hmm.
And right now we're moving on. The DAO is in full control of the protocol. We have been able to ship one of our most profitable and successful products in the past couple of months, and we're very excited to go on like that. To be honest, I think it's very
Hmm.
important to be able to build through some of the adversities. And
Yeah.
to be fair, like meme system, Abracadabra system, and meme design has been very resilient even into those turbulent times. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, that's great to hear. I guess one question that popped up at the time was when you said DAO. So there were also a lot of issues happening with DAO that kind of started coming up in 2022 in terms of, oh, token holders, the larger ones, they're the ones who get the maximum weight when it comes to voting, and then it's turning out to be like a board, right, in a way, a centralized board. So were there any changes that were made to your DAO in terms of how, let's say, voting would take place, or how some of these other issues that people started to feel about DAOs that made them not trust DAOs, and so yeah, I just kind of wanted to see if there's any specific changes that you guys made with your approach to DAO.
That's actually a super good question. I think you're completely right. I think DAOs, the way they're envisioned today, are not the way to go. They're one of the best things that we have, but it's not already the final goal, right? The fact that
Yeah.
just because you have more tokens, you have more voting power than anybody else. Yes, it makes sense,
Hmm.
but of course, there's a lot of drawbacks, as you mentioned. Abra currently uses a snapshot voting model where if you stake your spell as S spell or M spell, you have voting power. And I gotta check, but I'm pretty sure if you have LP tokens related to spell, you also have
Hmm.
double voting power. We currently have not addressed any of those worries about large holders. I totally agree that
Hmm.
it's something that we should do, and it's something that I actually forgot to say in the AMA. So thank you for reminding me. One important part
Sure.
of Q2, Q3, and Q4 will be a tokenomics revamp, where we're going to focus a lot on that, and we're going to bring full on-chain governance to Abracadabra,
Hmm.
where not only spell holders will have a say in the protocol, but also minimal peers, because
Hmm.
our system works with two entities, right? The DAO itself and the LPers, and
Yeah.
both of these entities need to be both. Um, how can I say, both on the same path, right? Because if
Hmm.
those entities are not aligned, then the whole system doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be something very cool to see in the future, and something that I'm very excited about. Because despite everything, I still think that DAOs are a very good thing and something that will revolutionize the industry. But you have to do it right. And simply having large players that have individual motivations to vote for something maybe is not the way to go just yet.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree that DAOs are the way to go, especially for crypto, right? Yeah, it's sure the full form is decentralized autonomous, right, organization, but that D for decentralization could also be democratic, right? Because it's really a two democracy. What I mean is like we need to like sort of look in look into warping it or sort of morphing it into more of a democratic system, which it already aims to be, but I guess that's the path to go. And I think, we just rolled out DAOs. It's a very new concept, so definitely with future iterations, it's going to get better and it's the way to go. I completely agree with that.
Totally. And it's also, if there's one thing that I have to say, it's also a little bit dangerous to go full on chain governance from the start. Because
Hmm. Yeah.
if a DAO fully controls an architecture or a technology or something where that involves also other parties, and this DAO is hijacked through any kind of attack where a single player buy a whole bunch of tokens and just votes
Yeah.
to disassemble it. It's a risk, right? It's something
Hmm.
that is very, very worrying. And this is something that we have looked a lot when deciding how to structure meme minting. And I
Hmm.
think we're finally moving to a phase where we can finally go with meme minting on chain through votes, as long as
Hmm.
we give meme peers also um, a say in the whole decision making process. This is something that we're actively working on. Most of our core contributors um, attention and efforts will be towards it to make sure that we can fully revamp the tokenomics and how the actual protocol works on its own. There's also has to be said that this power of hijacking a whole organization is also what gives the token its value, right? It's a governance token. So if you're willing to buy it all and simply vote towards something that you want, you should be able to do it, right?
Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense that you guys are working towards it and revamping it. One idea that came to my head was like, people could misuse it, like you said, by like buying a boatload of it and trying to steer it in a certain way. But I think a way to mitigate that would be to sort of have a limit as to how much weight a person could have, like a max limit, right? No matter what, how many tokens they hold. I mean, yeah, you want to give weight based on how much they hold, but at the same time, a max limit so that it becomes really tough for an individual entity or even a group, let's say, to sort of have that max voting capacity. Some sort
I
of
don't know,
on-chain analytics that sort of, well, analytics.
Yeah, it also becomes very difficult to prevent things like that from happening because you can just split apart your total net assets into multiple wallets then to simple as
That's what I
have
was
that.
saying, yeah.
But
Yeah.
something that we found interesting as a byproduct of the community XP system we rolled out for Dolomite, obviously we're not using it in any kind of governance capacity at the moment, but it does become an anti-DOS mechanic in some ways that we can incorporate into governance voting rate. The fact that you have to physically attend this AMA in order to get XP makes it so it's more attention oriented and less dollar oriented as a concept. So
that's a good idea.
We have no plans at the moment for incorporating it into governance, but it does make for some interesting mechanic to eventually use it because we're now gathering this data that can be pulled on chain to execute these sorts of abstract tasks or to potentially apply some kind of coefficient to a user's voting power. For example, if they don't hold enough XP, we could always apply some decay rate so they only have 50% of their vote rate because they hold a lot of tokens but they don't actually participate. So there's a lot of things that can be done with a mechanism like this, and I think that the experimentation mixed with very careful iteration could lead to some very interesting outcomes.
For sure.
100%. With like when a lot of protocols start doing it, we'll eventually see something emerge where other protocols are like, all right, this is working, and then let's just go with this, right? I think that would be an exciting time to see.
Do you have some examples
Yeah,
of DAO that you like and that are implementing something similar?
I unfortunately don't at the moment. I hadn't looked into DAOs for a while after mid 2022, but recently I'm like kind of sparked up about it again to think in ways of how it could be, made more effective and efficient.
Well, if something,
So I'm just trying to like start
if something pops
conversations
into
here about it.
if something pops into your mind, like DM me, because this is one of the things. This is one of the main challenges that I think our industry will need to face in the upcoming future, and something that I'm very passionate about as well. Because I would really, really love to see meme minting and meme decision making fully on chain. That would be absolutely amazing. We just need to do it right.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I just followed you, and something comes to my mind. I'll definitely shoot you a DM.
Super appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, great questions. Looks like we
Thank
have
you for the questions.
It looks like we have someone else who wants to ask. There we go. You've just been added.
Let's go. We just 2x'd our question and
Yeah.
answers.
So I didn't have a
That's the Italian
question.
power.
I didn't have a question. I just like sort of responding to that conversation. I think two examples of like projects like trying to do some like sort of like more fair governance or like equal weighted governance would be I think there's like Project Sora, which is like on Polkadot, and then Elastic DAO, but those were like really like old, I think maybe like a year and a half ago, and they're sort of just kind of down bad at this point. But if anyone's like interested, you could like look into those.
Would you mind DMing me the names? I always like researching these kind of topics.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go ahead and do that.
Appreciate that.
All right, great. I'm going to open it up if anyone else wants to jump in. Otherwise, we could, I think, about wrap it up. It's been a great discussion.
Yeah, it was really great. Really appreciated the time, guys. I had a lot of fun. I think I should do this kind of stuff more often because it's really helpful when you're looking for ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So yeah, thanks for joining us. It's really great having you on.
Thank you guys for having me on, and super excited to see where we're going with this and see what we can ship together.
Awesome. Us too.
Cheers.
Cool. Have a good one. See you, everyone.
See you.
Thanks
Ciao,
for
guys.
coming.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you guys for your time.
All right, bye bye.